F28 faked a proposal to me, F28, and shut down completely after I asked him what was funny about it. As title states, we were playing cards last night, and while he was putting away the cards into the box, he asked me to close my eyes for a surprise. I did. He snuck my favorite ring into the box and gave it to me. I opened it, saw it, rolled my eyes, and he thought it was very funny. He's also faked other proposals in the past when bending down to tie shoelaces, etc. I'd say about 4 or 5 times in total. Important context is that neither of us want to get married, so it is very obviously a joke. He got really ruffled when I asked him to explain what was funny about it. My goal with this was either to be in on the joke so I could laugh with him, or to ask him to stop because it feels slightly humiliating. I pressed him further when he didn't really answer my questions, and he said he didn't like to put much thought into it. My feelings towards it are weird. I feel like I'm the butt of a joke, and not like we are joking around together. I don't feel like I'm in on the joke or understanding it in any way. My worst fear is that he will fake a proposal around other people, and I'd end up in a really awkward situation. I tried to explain this, but my partner has a habit of shutting down when I bring problems to him. He also got really offended when I told him the worst fear, saying, "How could you think I would do that?" I feel kinda gaslit. Has anyone ever dealt with this before? It's caused a pretty serious argument. He's shut down entirely and hasn't spoken to me since yesterday. What the hell do I do? He's also faked other proposals in the past when bending down to tie shoelaces, etc. I'd say about 4 or 5 times in total. Yeah, no, I would have been done after the first one. Why do you want to be with this person? The bar is so low, it's in hell. Ladies, we gotta do better with our choice in partners. We deserve better. My 31F boyfriend, 31M, assumes I'll take on a 25K loss because of his decisions. I, 31F, have been with my boyfriend, 30M, for 2 years and living together for one that he's generally thoughtful, kind, and attentive. We've talked seriously about getting engaged this summer. He bought a condo before we started dating. His parents encouraged him to do it and helped with the down payment. He didn't live on his own before that, and they also paid for his education. For context on me, I lost my mom 10 years ago. My dad has been sick for years. I moved home for 2 years to rebuild financially after living in a high cost of living area. I just paid off my student loans and have worked really hard to build up my savings. Financial security is extremely important to me because I don't really have a safety net / anywhere to go if anything were to happen to my dad. He now wants to sell his condo because after running the numbers, he thinks we'd save more money renting together long term. I'm open to renting, even though my monthly costs would increase, because I'd be part of the decision, location, space, etc. The issue: he'd likely take about a $25,000 loss after fees if he sells. Last night, he said he's debating selling now instead of waiting until his mortgage renewal because even if he waits, he might still be selling at a loss, and selling now gives him more time to rebuild savings. Then he said, "And realistically it's going to be costing you $25,000 because I don't have that money." That comment really threw me. I didn't think me taking on that loss would even be up for discussion, let alone sound like the assumption. Especially since he knows my views around the importance of financial security. The only way I could help would be pulling money from my RRSP, which has tax penalties and long-term opportunity cost. If I paid the initial cost, my monthly expenses would then go up, making it even harder for me to replace that money. Beyond that, emotionally it makes me feel very vulnerable. If something went wrong in our relationship down the line, I'd be in vulnerable position, potentially unable to leave if I wanted to. I don't want to sound selfish, but I also don't feel like I should be responsible for covering a loss on an asset I don't own and never decided to buy, especially when I've made a lot of sacrifices to get where I am financially. He's a kind and generous partner overall, which is why this feels confusing. But it's making me second guess whether I'd feel financially safe getting engaged without clearer protections in place. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting to take on this $25,000? If you were in my position, how would you protect yourself? Would you speak to a lawyer, a financial advisor, or both? Do not take on this loss. You are not responsible for his financial choices. What? This makes absolutely no sense. Why would you have to take on his debt? Can he rent it out until the market is better? That would be the only sensible thing to do. He is clearly not financially ready for marriage. Don't give $25K to someone you've dated for 2 years, lol. That shouldn't even be a question. I, 18F, am losing my dad, 47M, to insane conspiracy theories. Too long did not read. My dad is falling for insane conspiracies. How can I stage an intervention? I, 18F, am losing my dad, 47M, to insane conspiracies, and I have no idea how to talk to him out of it. It is taking over his life, and I am genuinely concerned. A little bit of context. My dad was a cool guy growing up. Loved to hike. He was a brewer, a nurse, and had a political view that was about kindness. I think it began to change a little when my mom divorced him, although this was 15 years ago ADP, but even around 2015, he was still pretty normal. Obviously, he started to go down the Trump train a little in 2016, but that was more just because he believed in fiscal conservatism. Flash forward to now, I was building train tracks with my baby brother, and out of nowhere he starts telling me that Dems are pushing for abortion rights in order to eat fetuses? I had no clue how to respond, so I kind of just ignored him and nodded a little. Because what? Anyway, he continued telling me about it for the next 30 minutes, no matter how disinterested I presented or how uncomfortable I presented myself. He truly thinks that the Illuminati are taking over the world and stealing babies from hospitals to drink their blood. This is farther than just Republican. This is crazy. How do I even begin to stage an intervention? Or do I just have to watch him go down this rabbit hole that is leading him to be paranoid about literally everything? Our /canon casualties. My dad went down this path starting about 8 years ago. I'm so sorry. Trump is not fiscally conservative. It was always bullshit. Tell him about how the Epstein file points to all of those guys eating children. If he's gonna look into stuff, at least look into stuff with facts and paper trails instead of wild guessing. I-40F traveled on a work trip with my FO pilot 44M, and I'm trying to understand the subtext of what happened with the Captain 58M. So I-40 came along on an overseas trip with my husband 44, who is a FO. When we arrived, we met up with the crew for dinner and drinks. I was really welcomed into the group, and we had a great night chatting and debriefing the flight. I have a bit of a background in aviation, but not a pilot, so I genuinely enjoyed the pilot talk and was involved in the conversation. The Captain 58M turned to my husband and in front of the whole group, other SOs, said, "You did really well marrying her. She's smart, down to earth and gorgeous." My husband is quite introverted but friendly and didn't react at all, changing the subject as if he didn't hear. It was awkward. Then later that night the captain made more flirtatious comments to me in front of my husband regarding my looks again, and how all women from my cultural background are hot, Eastern European. Once again my husband said nothing. On the flight home just before descent the captain did his usual landing PA, but also added, "We have a very special guest on board today, the very lovely," and named me. It was so strange as I actually have always hoped my husband would give me a lil shout out, but he is straight-laced and professional, so no big deal, but it was strange coming from the captain. Once we collected our bags and said our goodbyes, the captain once again made a comment to me, but also in front of my husband again regarding my looks, and how he hopes to see me again. What I want to know is what sort of unspoken dynamics were at play. At no time did I interact with the captain alone. He made all these comments to me in front of my husband, so what was he trying to achieve? Is there something I don't understand that is going on between them two? My husband also didn't appear upset at these comments and barely reacted. Do crew size their spouses up like this so openly? Ask your husband to be sure, but it sounds like this was a display of power. I flirt with your wife, and you need to keep it cool and watch. Blatantly hitting on you. Since husband was probably a bit surprised at first one, and didn't react, the captain took it as fair game to continue. To me it was downright creepy. Especially over the intercom for everyone to hear. Ugh. Flirter's gonna flirt, thinker's gonna think. Up to you to nip it in the bud, not your husband.